Good afternoon, class. I'm Austin McNamee, and today I'll be doing my week 7 video on how to brew beer. I'm going to take you through all the different steps. There's going to be some cuts in and out of the video because if this is about a 3.5, 4 hour ordeal, and nobody wants to sit around and watch that. So I'll take you through all the cliff notes and everything and each step that needs to be done. As you see here, I have my 2-row malt, which is your base malt. I have your specialty malts, which gives you more flavor. Uh, I have the different hops that will be used and the yeast. So I'm going to take this grain. This recipe calls for around 12 pounds, 13 pounds of grain. I'm going to put them in the grain mill. I'm going to crush them up, and then when I crush them up, I'm going to get ready to move on to the next step. When I get done with that, I'll start the next video, and we'll get started from there. Thank you. All right, class. I'm back now. I have my grain crushed, and I have my mash water up to 170 degrees. This is my grain. This is the crushed grain. It's very fine and everything, and it's at about 68 degrees. Now, once I add this water, which is 170 degrees, into the cooler, and then I add the 13 pounds of grain into it, it's going to drop that 170 degree water down to about 152. That's going to be our target temperature. We're going to leave that in there for about 60 minutes. And once we get done with that step, we'll come back to you. Thank you. All right, so we just added our 170 degree water, and now we're going to start pouring in the grain and mixing it slowly. You don't want to have any clots or anything like that. Get your efficiency out of your grain. So we're going to continue to do this until all the grain is mixed up. Once all the grain is mixed up, we're going to, again, like I said, wait another hour. And that will be where my next video continues. All right, class. So we finished the mash, and the grain has sat in this cooler for an hour with water at about 152 degrees. So once that finished, we put another 5 gallons of water in here. This water is at about 170 degrees, and currently we're going to sprinkle this water over top of the grain as the mash flows through the mash tun into the boil kettle. We're going to continue to do this until we get about 6.5 gallons of water in the brew kettle. Once that happens, then we'll cut that off, and we'll get that water up to about boiling temperature. All right, I'll start my next video.
So you have to keep that temperature regulated, right?
All right, so now this is the cooler that we had our grain in. That was at about 152 degrees. Once we reached our hour, we started draining the wort, is what it's called now, into the brew kettle. As that's slowly running into the brew kettle, we're using about 170 degree hot water to trickle over top of the grain to get all of the sugars and efficiency of the grain that's going to end up running into the brew kettle until we get about 6.5 gallons of wort. Once we get 6.5 gallons of wort in here, we're going to boil that, which is about 112 degrees, and then we're going to start adding our hop additions. With 6.5 gallons of wort, we're going to boil off about a full gallon, which gives us about 5.5 gallons of total wort. So I will get back to you once we start doing our hop additions. Thank you. All right, class. So we finished with our wort running into the brew pot. So now we're going to start with our first hop addition. This is the 60-minute addition, and we have a 1 ounce of Columbus. So we're going to add this 1 ounce of Columbus, and we will be adding other hop additions as the brew goes on. So you want to be careful when you add this first hop addition because you'll get a lot of boil over. So you just have to be
aware of that and regulate the temperature and be ready to stir it. All right, you can kill it. All right, so our first hop edition has gone through, and that was our 60-minute hop edition. This is now our 45-minute hop edition. We'll be adding a 1 ounce of Chinook, and we'll add that to the boil now. And our next hop edition is at 20 minutes. So yeah, thank you. All right, class. Now we are at adding our 20-minute edition, which is Columbus hops, and we'll be adding 1 ounce of that. All right, class. So this is the 15-minute edition, and this will be 1 ounce of Centennial. We'll add this in, stir it up, and we'll be waiting for our next edition. All right, class. So this will be my 10-minute hop edition. This is going to add a lot of the aroma and flavor of the hops. Your earlier hop editions added the bitterness of the beer. So I'm going to add this 1 ounce of Columbus and my Warflock tablet. Warflock tablet helps clarify the beer. It's going to group up a lot of the sediment that floats around in there, and it's going to settle down to the bottom of the beer. And that way, when I drain the beer, the wort, into another container, all that sediment will be collected there at the bottom. All right, class, this is going to be our last hop edition. This is going to be 1 ounce of Centennial and 1 ounce of Columbus. We're going to go ahead and add this in. This is going to add a lot of aroma and a lot of hop flavor to the beer. You'll taste a lot of these later on additions of hops when you drink your beer. So we're going to go ahead and kill the heat now and start cooling it. We have this copper coil here, which we're going to run cold water through, and it's going to cool the beer pretty rapidly. You want to get this beer down to about 75 degrees within about 30 minutes. All right, thank you. All right, class, so we got our wort down to about 75 degrees or so. So we're going to go ahead and pour that in through the funnel here into the carboy, and that's where it's going to stay for about a week. This is going to filter out a lot of the sediment and stuff in the wort. You want about 70 degrees to 68 degrees before you pitch your yeast. So with that being around 75, 76 now, once it goes into the cold carboy, it should drop the temperature to a very good temperature to pitch our yeast for. So we'll go ahead and start with that. Kill it then. All right, class, so now we have transferred our wort into the carboy. It's sitting at about 68 degrees. So with it sitting at about 68 degrees, we're going to go ahead and add the yeast. This is a live yeast, and this yeast is going to feed off of the sugars that we've gotten from the grains, the different grains that we use. And when it eats the sugars in the grain, that it's going to create the alcohol content. So go ahead and add this. Now, prior to us doing that, we went ahead and took a gravity reading, and the gravity reading of the wort without any alcohol content in it. So we take that number, and then we're going to, after the yeast eats off of the sugars and ferments, so we're going to go ahead and take a reading after that, after the alcohol is added into it. And the difference between the numbers is going to come up with our alcohol content. So we're going to shake this up. And we should be good there. Now we're going to add our airlock, because this is going to produce a lot of CO2
as it starts making alcohol, and you want the air to be able to escape, the CO2 to be able to escape, but you don't want any oxygen to get into the beer because oxygen has bacteria and stuff like that in it, and that's gonna spoil the beer. So we're gonna let this sit for about a week, and then we have another carboy about the same size, and we're gonna drain, which then will be considered beer because it has alcohol in it. We're gonna drain that into another carboy, leaving all the sediment. As you can see, the sediment, the differences in the color here. The sediment's gonna settle to the bottom, and we're gonna drain all the beer into another carboy. We're gonna let that sit for a week, and then we're gonna drain it again, which will be about this much sediment, about a half an inch of sediment in the bottom of the carboy. We're going to drain the beer into into a keg, and then we're going to carbonate it. After we carbonate the beer, it will be ready for drinking. It takes about 3 or 4 days after that. The beer will be ready to consume, and that's pretty much how you homebrew beer. It seems very overwhelming when you watch the video at first and everything, but you got to take baby steps into it. This is the more advanced version of brewing homebrew. This is called all grain. You can do extracts and stuff, which you can do it on your kitchen stove with, probably $70 worth of equipment and bottle your beer, not keg it. Well, I appreciate your time and everything. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you very much.